Good morning, I'm Miberon Omoloju, and this is Policy Watch by Policy TV. Now, as we all know, the 2027 elections are already around the corner, and conversations about who will run, who will win, and what will change have already started. I mean, that's all well and good, but I want us to talk about the cost of actually getting into power in Nigeria. Now, you might think this is none of my business, right? But stay with me, because whether you realize it or not, this doesn't just affect the people running for office, it affects you. Now, politics in Nigeria is expensive, very expensive, and not just expensive in theory, but expensive in a way that already determines who can even participate before the election begins. Let's start from the basics. Before anyone even campaigns, they have to buy a nomination form from political parties. For presidential aspirants in major parties, these forms can cost as high as 100 million naira or more. For the Senate, forms can go for around 20 million naira, and for House of Representatives, about 10 million naira depending on the party. And this is just the entry point. This is before campaigns, before mobilization, before any other thing. Then comes the actual election campaign. Now, according to Nigeria's electoral laws, there are official spending limits. A presidential candidate is allowed to spend up to about 10 billion naira, Senate candidates about 500 million naira, and House of Rep candidates about 250 million naira. But let's be honest, campaigns in Nigeria go beyond what is actually written on paper. There are costs for rallies, media coverage, billboards, transportation, political agents, security, and grassroots mobilizations across different communities. Now, when you put all of this together, the real cost of running for major offices can easily run into billions of naira. Now, let me pause and ask this question. If someone spends this kind of money just to get into office, how do we expect them to focus only on serving the people? How do we expect them not to think about recovering what they spent? Because to be honest, there will be pressure. Pressure to repay political backers, pressure to settle supporters, pressure to maintain influence, and even pressure to start preparing for the next election almost immediately. And this is where it directly affects citizens like you and I, because governance then becomes divided. Instead of full attention on improving healthcare, education, infrastructure, and the economy, part of that attention is going into managing political debt and sustaining power. And the truth is, a 4-year term is not that long. If a significant part of that time is spent trying to recover political investment or secure the next term, when exactly does real development happen? Now, let's compare this with other countries. In countries like the United Kingdom, political parties fund a large part of campaigns, and there are strict limits and monitoring systems in place. In places like Canada, there are strong transparency laws, spending caps, and public funding support that reduce how much individuals personally spend to run. Now, even in the United States, where campaigns are also expensive, there are structured systems for fundraising, disclosure, and donor tracking that make spending more transparent and regulated. But in Nigeria, a large part of campaign financing is still informal and heavily dependent on personal wealth or private backers. And that is why the cost becomes a barrier. It is not just about running for office. It is about who can even afford to enter the race in the first place. So, what is the one realistic solution that can actually work? The most practical and impactful step is to enforce full transparency and public tracking of political funding. Now, this is not just on paper, but a system where every major campaign expense and donation must go through traceable digital channels that are monitored in real time. This means candidates must publicly declare where their money is coming from, how it is being spent, and independent bodies must audit these records before and after elections. Now, why is this important? Because once money is visible, it becomes harder to overspend. harder to hide excess funding, and harder to turn politics into a private investment scheme. It also reduces the influence of hidden sponsors who expect returns after elections. And over time, it brings down the overall cost of politics, making it more accessible to capable Nigerians who may not have billions to spend. Because at the end of the day, this conversation is not just about politicians, it's about the outcomes. When the cost of getting into power is too high, the system begins to favor money over merit. And when that happens, citizens end up paying the real price through poor services, weak policies, and slow development. So, when you hear about elections, don't just listen to promises. Think about the system behind it. Because the cost of politics today plays a huge part in the quality of your life tomorrow. Thank you for watching. I'm Miberon Omoloju, and this has been Policy Watch by Policy TV. Goodbye.